Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 1965 film Planet of the Vampires, and if you know me or if you've been watching my channel long enough, you know I'm a big fan of Mario Bava, and this is a Mario Bava film. So if you don't know Mario Bava, he's a wonderful Italian director, had influenced so many directors after him, and you can see why when you actually watch his films. And this isn't my favorite Bava film, but you can definitely see his style in it. It definitely looks beautiful. Engaging camera work, cool lighting. That's another big thing that I think actually Dario Argento took from Mario Bava, to be honest, and then kind of got more credit than Bava did for doing it. But, other things that Bava did that you may not know, Black Sunday, Black Sabbath, A Bay of Blood, Blood and Black Lace, Lisa and the Devil, Shock, $5 for an August Moon, Hatchet for the Honeymoon, The Girl Who Knew Too Much, The Whip and the Body, and Kill Baby Kill, which I have reviews for, I think, about all of those, or almost all of those, all but I think two at the moment on my channel, and I actually have an entire Mario Bava playlist, so this will be added to that as well, so you can check that out if you're into Bava. The script for this was written by Ib Melchior, who also did Godzilla Raids Again, Gigantus the Fire Monster, Reptilicus, and Death Race 2000, another film I reviewed recently, and I'm a huge fan of. I love it, love it, love it. Also, Alberto Bevilacqua, who also wrote The Eye of the Needle, Black Sabbath, so another collaboration with Mario Bava, Blue Tango, and This Kind of Love, just to name a few, and Renato Pestriniero, who provided the story that was the basis for this film called One Night of 21 Hours, which is kind of a cool title. This was the first film that Lamberto Bava worked on. Obviously, Lamberto Bava being the son of Mario Bava, so starting to get his feet wet because obviously later on he would actually start doing his own films, and some pretty good ones, honestly. The movie The Terror from Beyond Space, Dark Star, and this one have been said to be the inspirations for Alien, the original Alien. And if you watch this film, and especially the aspect of, the vampires using humans and inhabiting their bodies in order to save their race or, continue their race, that 100% is what is going on in the film Alien. And also kind of like the distress signal that kind of, takes the humans to the planet. Like that is also going on as well. So you can see that, I'm not saying necessarily that it was definitely taken directly from Planet of the Vampires for Alien, but you could see where it potentially was. So it's interesting to kind of see those parallels. The film was quite low budget, but Bava covered that up in looks with in-camera tricks that he did. He used a lot of miniature shots, which you can tell a lot of them when they're going on, and the fog. The thick use of fog, and I particularly like when it's the colored fog. It's obviously, different colored lights kind of backlighting the fog to make it look cool. So the landscape looks good. I like what he was able to pull off. Immediately, Bava is at it in this film with his engaging camera work, and it moves around the inside of the spaceship. That's how you kind of initially get this establishing shot of this is what the inside of the spaceship looks like. Obviously, we're doing space stuff. Here's the whole crew. It's kind of like this side-moving camera work that goes around. Something that Bava is very well known for. A lot of cool camera movements. Very smooth. So, yeah, love it, love it, love it. That's one of the things that really endears me to Bava films. They throw out plenty of space jargon, is what I put down, early to set the stage to let you know that these people know what they're doing. They're professionals, so the way they talk with each other with all this space jargon, you're like, oh, okay. A, they've been at this for quite a while. B, they're trained quite well. So if they're running up against terrible things, it's not that they're ill-prepared, it's that these are particularly terrible things. So when things go wrong, they're particularly bad because these people are trained and they know their stuff. The leather space outfits look pretty uncomfortable to me, especially with the high collars. Like literally, if you look at the people doing the acting, like they like can't move their heads, so like they kind of move like their whole body when they're talking. So I just kind of wonder like whose idea was it to have that be the costuming for this? Because it's a bit much, and like it looks insanely uncomfortable and constricting for the actors, especially that collar. I mean, sure, do the leather, it's constricting, whatever, but the collar is just that next level thing that just looks, it makes it look funny on screen, and it also just looks uncomfortable. So yeah, but I laughed at that a bit. The acting during the descent to the planet is actually pretty funny, with everyone acting like they're being pushed to the ground because of that kind of like super gravity that's going on with the planet of the vampires that they're going to. And I'm just going to refer to those things as vampires because that's the title of the film, even though I don't know, like they're kind of vampires or like soul vampires in a sense. But anyway, it's actually more possession than anything. But anyway, so it's hilarious when they're like all like doing the acting to be like, like trying to fight it to stay upright, but the gravity's just pushing them down. Pretty laughable. But I mean, you know, for the time, it was pretty awesome. But you know, things change. It gets pretty wild when the crew all starts to try to kill each other once they've landed on the planet. And at that point, you wonder, like, my initial thought was, is there something else going on here, kind of like an Alien type film where there's like someone has a different mission than everyone else that they don't know about? But then it became pretty clear when everyone started kind of trying to kill each other that it was really something with the planet, something with the vampires that was actually going on. And that's obviously what happens. Like they were trying to inhabit the bodies of these individuals. But interestingly enough, they added this twist later, which I thought was interesting. They can only do it if they were unconscious, excuse me, or sleeping. So there are some rules for it. So I like that those get established, but not early on because it keeps the mystery of like how dangerous is this and what are we actually dealing with. And I think that's one of the good things that this film does too, is it keeps you engaged by not only, you know, making you feel like what is actually going on here, but they give you the breadcrumbs for what's happening at good pacing. And they also have the danger kind of escalate at a good pacing as well. So overall, just like a great pacing for this film. Well, not great, but a good pacing, quite good. When Dr. Karen spills out of the ship, you believe that they could actually breathe on the planet. So initially, you know, the other two go out with like their space helmets on, but Karen, you know, being possessed by a space vampire at that point, throws himself out of the ship, and then you're like, as a viewer, you're like, oh, okay, well they can breathe here, which is probably more comfortable for the actors because then they don't have to add the helmet to everything. I like how they say the large amount of gravity means that the planet is, quote, far superior to ours, because apparently that's how you judge the greatness of planets, based on how hardcore their gravity is. I just thought that was a funny line. For the most part, I think, you know, the dialogue is good. The acting is pretty good. Like, it's just, that line stuck out for that reason, because you're just like, okay, interesting. Yeah. The planet exploration looks cool, especially with what I was talking about before, that I really like the fog and the colored lighting that kind of like changes the color of the fog in different areas. Also, the miniatures they use and kind of the sets they created look pretty good. I mean, it looks like a foreboding, desolate, yet creepy and dangerous planet. And, you know, that atmosphere is created and maintained. When they find members of the Galliot dead by each other's hands, it makes you wonder how the members of the Argus managed to fight that off. You know, we saw it happening to them, and you're kind of like, what's going on here? Then we kind of get an idea of what's going on. Then you see that everyone from the Galliot ended up dying. So I guess it just makes you think that they're kind of like more mentally resilient, I guess would be the best way to put it. And those from the Galliot were not. But I mean, real talk. It's about convenience of the writing and moving the story where they really wanted to. But my initial thought was, how are the members of the Galliot or the Argus able to not kill each other at all? But the Galliot, just everyone, must have been like weak-minded. It's that next level of intrigue when they return to the Galliot and all the bodies are gone. That is a nice little aspect to it that's added. Yet again, one of those extra moments of mystery where you're like, okay, now where are we going? Obviously, then later we actually see the bodies kind of reanimate when they had been buried. And then you're just kind of like, okay, there's that next level of danger. Like, what else are we getting into? What else is going on? So that was pretty good. Then the crew members from the Galliot arise from the dead, and you know the crew from the Argus are in even more trouble, like I just said. Captain Marcari tells everyone, Mark, I'm just going to call him Mark from now on, but Captain Marcari, Mark, tells everyone to get some sleep. And I don't really understand how people were supposed to get sleep at that point because they had been through a lot. Things were looking very dangerous. They even tried to kill each other. So I don't know in that instance how you feel like your mind is safe, like your mind and your body is safe, like physically and from, having this possession. Obviously, when he's telling them to go to sleep, this is before they know that their bodies can be taken over based off of being unconscious or being asleep. But yeah, I was just like, how are you going to sleep? Interesting aspect that the mind control from the vampires can only take hold when unconscious or asleep. Yeah, I already covered that. As a viewer, you have a strong feeling that Bert is coming back when it shows the scene of them actually burying him. And yeah, pretty much when people die in this, they end up coming back because they are husks at that point. When they die, they become ready vessels for the vampires to take over and proliferate is what they're trying to do. The giant alien skeletons are cool. That abandoned ship that they find with those gigantic alien skeletons, there were 2 of them. Although they may have just used like the same one and just set them up differently if it was low budget, I'm guessing. But looked good, looked cool. It also gave you an idea that it's not just humans they were after, that these vampires could kind of inhabit any being for the most part. When Solace and Kier show up, they seem very off with their very slow walking and their belabored speech. Viewers know immediately not to trust them, but it does take a little bit for the members of the Argus to understand that. Obviously when they start going after the meteor rejector is when they get the idea that, oh, okay, something's off. But the viewers immediately are like, they're not acting normal. They're walking weird. They're talking weird. Like, this is off. And that's kind of what they use, which works really well as this signal to the audience that this person has been basically possessed. They've been taken over by the vampire. Interesting monologue from the vampire in Solace's body that reveals the motivation for the vampires. And at this point, it actually doesn't even seem fully sinister. That's the greatest part about that monologue, is it connects with the viewer, at least it did with me, a little bit of like, we are just trying to survive. Like, if we do not inhabit the bodies of other beings, we will die. Like, that's literally where it goes to. And, you at least find yourself for a little bit being like, oh, I kind of get that. I kind of sympathize with that, because what do we do as humans? We're always just looking for the way to survive, the way to get by, the way to keep our race going. And whenever you're in a dire situation, like you would assume the vampires are, like they say, you take desperate measures. And that's what they were doing. They literally were putting out a distress signal, hoping that someone would show up. Like, they even said, I think the one inhabiting Solace even said that they didn't even expect that anyone would answer it. But they obviously were lucky they did. Why wouldn't the vampires use weapons when they're fighting? Because they would have to know that without them, they're clearly outmatched. My only thought on that maybe is they don't want to damage the bodies that they're going to try to inhabit too much. So that is one actual reasoning I can give. But my initial thought was, okay, the crew of the Argus are using weapons. The vampires in the bodies of the Galliot crew are not using weapons. They're at a huge disadvantage. They were just like mowing them down at one point. But I was like, yeah, maybe they just don't want to. They don't want to damage the bodies too much, because that's kind of like the home you're going to try to live in. Mark's blank stare when he's talking to Wes towards the end tells the viewer everything they need to know about what's happened. At that point, the audience is like, we've seen this before. Mark has been taken over by a vampire. Then Wes's later conversation with Sonia reveals how choppy her speech is, which lets us know that she has also been taken over at that point. And then we're like, oh no, Wes is alone, Wes is in trouble, and obviously that's when the whole reveal happens. And then I like how this entire movie, the vampires are actually trying to get this meteor rejector, so they can have like a safe trip in one of the ships, and then they just basically let Wes go off and destroy it. So like I just don't get it. Like it's so weird. It's just it's just a bad choice. It's that big uh-oh moment when the vampires decide they have to land, and then you see what planet they're looking at. It's Earth. So this is the big, to the viewers, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So yeah. So it's a good kind of cliffhanger, good kind of stinger, like, oh no. Um, Once again, pacing's really good. Really like that. The howling wind sound they use outside of the ships creates kind of like a desolate but also ominous feel. So that's really awesome. Obviously, this plays off the innate fear that humans have of the unknown. This is something that's done in horror a lot. So good stuff, good stuff. It works. It works. And it works here, in my opinion. It works here. The main aspect of the vampires inhabiting the bodies of the humans for survival draws that strong parallel to Alien. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it was definitely lifted from it, but it feels like it could have been. Just saying. But I love how this plays to the innate human fear of the unknown being very scary, being potentially very dangerous. Obviously, a lot of like sci-fi and sci-fi horror has done that. It's kind of what it lives on. But yeah, atmosphere is great, looks great, good stuff. Yeah. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm giving it a very solid 3.5-star rating. I enjoy the film. Like I said, not like one of my favorite Bava films, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's fun. Would love to know your opinions about Planet of the Vampires, though. Put it in the comments. Love it, hate it, in between, and just give me like a sentence or two. Because I like the conversation. It's fun to nerd out. Do me a favor, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do that for me. That's your way to repay me if you like this video or any video I've ever done. I appreciate that. Also hit the notification bell button because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing for a week at this point. So I think it's a good amount. But regardless, I really do thank you for taking your time to check out this particular video. And until next time, keep it brutal.